In this video, I'm going to show you how to unlock both the Skeleton Curse and the Ghost Curse. These two curses are undoubtedly two of the coolest curses in the game. However, many players believe they are unreachable due to them requiring you to reach level 100 in the Hourglass mode. This video is going to be your ultimate guide to winning in Hourglass and covering the main problems that new players face when first starting off in the mode. I've broken the video down into sections to help you fully understand how you can win your Hourglass games, such as the best crew size, things you need to do before you even enter the fight, advanced PvP tactics which are going to give you an upper hand in combat, and the main problems causing players to lose their fights and how to overcome them, and much more. So quickly, if you don't know, to get these curses, you must reach level 100 in either the Servants of the Flame or the Athena's Fortune, depending on if you want the Ghost or Skeleton Curse first. Leveling up these factions is done by winning Hourglass fights and selling flags you win from Hourglass battles. You do get a little bit of rep when you lose the fight, but it's nowhere near the amount when you actually win the fight. To start a game, vote on the Hourglass to tell the game you're ready for PvP, and then when you want to search for an opponent, vote on the piece of paper and it's going to have you dive under the water. While this sounds simple enough, Hourglass is home to the sweatiest players on the game, so I'm going to walk you through some things that are going to help you out a lot and are going to set you well on your way to unlocking these curses. But also, just don't be discouraged if you sink a lot. It is part of the game. You are going to lose. You're just going to be able to pick yourself back up. Let's start with what is the best crew size. Hourglass can be done on any boat size as it puts you against the same boat you are. While there isn't a set boat that's like necessarily easier in Hourglass, players do tend to find the brig the hardest due to it being a three-man ship, and people who grind Hourglass tend to play in threes. Playing solo is obviously going to be a very difficult way as well. It can be hard to navigate and manage the boat all on your own, especially when you're first starting off, and if you're not the most experienced, you're going to struggle a lot. However, playing solo will build your experience in Hourglass a lot better as you're throwing yourself in the deep end of PvP. So if you want to learn faster, play solo, but realistically, you're going to lose a lot. The next ship is Galleon. Galleon Hourglass can be fun for a while due to it just like the pure chaos, but it can get old quick. So if you're here to grind Hourglass, I'd definitely recommend having a duo sloop. One of the many perks of playing duos is that the boat is just far more compact compared to the other ships, while also allowing a teammate to take different roles. And if you die, the game isn't straight away over like solo. Keep in mind, there are definitely sweaty duo crews, but duo is just the most clean and enjoyable Hourglass boat type. So if you're really going for this curse, definitely pick duo. Let's get into some things you need to be sure you're doing before you even enter the Hourglass match. Make sure you have the Reaper or Athena Hourglass raised straight away, as this is going to give you a bonus on the rep you get when you win a fight or when you lower your Hourglass at the end of your session. Also, it's very important that you stock up efficiently. Make sure you check all around the outposts, checking all the barrels, and grab all the chains you can find. Chains are essential in Hourglass, and finding more at the outpost can honestly make the difference between a win and a loss. Visit the merchant at the outpost for wood, food, cannibals, and a storage crate. Once you have all your best supplies in the storage crate, you can then place it here on the boat. Placing it here is going to make sure you have easy access to good food and wood, while not being in an obvious place where an opponent can easily grab it and dump it off if you get boarded. I have had people find it in this spot obviously, but it's far less likely. Before your games, if you need more cannons and high tier food, definitely do a quick raid on a sea fort. You don't actually have to kill the ghost, just run around with your storage crate and get all the food you can, as sea forts contain the best food in the game and can contain up to 150 cannibals, which you're definitely going to want. Now that we're all stocked up, let's get into some advanced PvP tactics, which are going to be your blueprint to winning in Hourglass. Let's start off with ship maneuvering and positioning. Controlling your ship's position is going to be key. Always aim to keep your ship angled, your cannons, so they have a clear shot. A good tip when you're new to steering in fight is to make sure when you're standing on the wheel that the enemy's boat is located between the sail and the lantern here. This is going to make sure the person on your cannon has constant angle the entire fight, giving you one less thing to worry about. And now let's go to roles. During combat, make sure you assign roles. One person should focus on repairing and bucketing, while the other uses cannons primarily. This is important in tense situations. If all the crew members know what they should be focusing on, the fight is going to be way more smooth. For example, the person on cannons, even if they hear the water filling up, they should just know that the person on helm has water covered, and while they can remind them, they should never leave their cannons, because having constant pressure on the enemy is how you win fights. So make sure as the player on wheel, you're checking the wheel, you're running down, you're bucketing, and you're repairing. Also, stuff like repairing the mast, like if the mast gets hit with a cannonball, that's always going to be the helm's job in order to make sure the cannon is always shooting back. This is the essential format for winning Hourglass fights. Once you practice this, you're going to see a huge improvement. Teamwork is always going to be key. Best weapons to use in Hourglass. Your go-to loadout should be sniper for sure, so that you have the range to snipe them on their boat. And your other weapon should just be whatever you're comfortable using. For some people it might be blunder, some people it's going to be sword, whatever you prefer, but just make sure you're using a sniper for those long range shots. Tips for hitting cannons. When the fight begins, you want to make sure you're hitting the cannon line. This means your shots are knocking the enemy players off their cannons and may even result in a one-ball kill. If you're consistent in hitting this spot, the enemy should struggle to return fire, leading to you doing far more overall damage to their boat. A tip for hitting more cannon shots is to first make sure you have the default cannon selected, all ones with the same build as shown here. With this, you can see how much better the visibility is compared to this monstrosity of a cannon. This cannon is also good because it has rings which can help you aim your shots, as you can sort of line up the enemy's boat with a ring. I wouldn't rely on this too much. You can sort of just use this as a base, and then depending if the cannons are going over or below, just adjust from there. Now, when to use chains. Chains are going to be essential for winning your fights. After hitting the enemy's cannon line for a while, definitely go for some chains chain shots on their mast. 2 chain shots is going to take down a mast on a sloop, and 1 is going to take it down on all the other boats. These cannons are going to be much heavier, so make sure you aim higher than normal. If you successfully hit chains, begin to circle around the enemy's boat, inflicting damage from all sides, forcing them to just go in full repair mode, and they're going to struggle shooting you back because their boat isn't moving. After getting their mast down, continue shooting for a while, and then you can try and attempt for a board. If they appear to be struggling and your boat isn't taking on too much water, send your helm over, making sure that the boat still has a good angle before you leave. Make sure you have at least 2 pineapples, and remember to always eat as soon as you take damage, even if you're in the middle of the fight, and focus getting that anchor down at all costs. It is worth noting though, it's important not to spam boards, because a failed board can so easily lead to the other team getting an advantage. Because while you're in the water swimming around trying to get on their boat, your teammate is currently playing solo, and the enemy can just get your chain down and then it's over. Going for snipes. Make sure your helm player, if the boat has angle and is decently repaired, they're going for snipes on the enemy. It can be a hard shot to hit, but I just try to aim my crosshair at the harpoon for the first shot, and then I sort of see where the bullet's going and I can adjust left or right depending where that shot lands. Next, make sure you're always listening for boards. Listening for mermaids in the water and ladder grabs is going to be crucial for keeping enemies off your boat. These are the noises that you're probably hearing but not giving enough attention. The second you hear one of these noises, you need to be checking both ladders, depending if it came from left or right, and then giving all of your attention to trying to make sure they don't get on your boat, whether it's shooting them with the blunder, swinging at them with the sword. A player on your boat can be a game-ending thing, so make sure to keep them off at all costs. Don't forget to sell flags as well. Selling flags is also going to be an important point to leveling up. If your enemy has an emissary flag, selling that is going to give you a huge amount of rep, so make sure you get it out of the water once you've sunk them. As a high-level flag is around the same amount of rep as a win. When it comes to lowering your hourglass, after you've gotten a few wins, you have the option to go back to an outpost, lower your hourglass, and receive a small amount of rep and gold. So when is the best time to lower your hourglass? Now this really depends on what type of player you are and how many wins you're racking up. If you're a new player and you're really struggling and you can maybe only get 2 wins at a time, definitely just lower after that second win. I would never lower after 1 though, because you're not getting that level 5 flag and you're just wasting rep. But for me and my teammate, we can normally get around 4 to 5, so we normally just try and get a champion boat. But there's no set method which is better, because you actually get increased rep depending on how many wins you have. Your win count kind of acts like a multiplier on rep, so getting high streaks will give you more rep, but a lot of players won't be able to reach that. So kind of just find a middle ground for yourself. Now let's get to an important part. Why are you losing your fights? One of the most painful parts of Hourglass is when you're continuously losing over and over again, and you just can't really understand what's going on. So here are the most common reasons why new players die and things you can look to improve to try and win more games. The first is definitely bucketing. You never want to reach the point where your boat is creaking. During the fight, when there's so many things going on, it's going to be a lot harder to drain your boat of water, so making sure you're staying on top of it and keeping it below second deck the whole time is going to put you in a far better position. So make sure you're aware of the water level and always try and bucket your boat till it's fully empty. The next way you're most likely dying is due to your mast getting knocked down straight away, putting you in a horrible position and probably throwing the fight. So it's crucial that there's always 3 planks of wood on your mast, as if you only have 2 on there, a single chain can take your mast down compared to having a 3rd on, which is going to take 2 shots. If your mast does get knocked down, as it probably will, you need to make sure that you're pulling it up straight away, as it's a lot easier to pull up if it's just been knocked down, as opposed to when it falls all the way down and you have to pull it up from the bottom. Once your mast is pulled up though, you don't have to necessarily rush to get your boat moving. Instead, you can stay with your mast pulled up, as the enemy's probably going to be focusing a lot and probably sending more chains over. You can also just knock their mast down when yours gets knocked down, and make sure you never lower your sail unless all 3 pieces of wood are back on. This is because the second the enemy sees you drop your sail again, they're just going to shoot another chain, and if you don't have all 3 on, it's just going to come back down straight away, and it's going to be harder to pull up. Going for boards way too frequently is a very common way fights end. It is going to seem boring to just stay on your boat, but if you're looking to win, you do want to stay on your boat for a majority of the fight unless you see an opening. For example, if one of the enemies is dead, like if they went for a failed board, you just can't be sending players the entire fight. You're just going to lose. These are just a few common reasons why players lose their fights, but try and analyze your own games, like maybe record some of your games and you can watch back on them and try and locate the moment where you lost the fight, as most games have a moment where something happens, like your mast gets knocked down, a teammate gets one-balled. Even if it's not for another 5 minutes, there's always a moment you can pin it on where the enemy got that upper hand, and finding out what that is and then learning to improve it is going to help you win far more fights. And just keep in mind though, you're not going to win every fight. To get this curse, you're going to lose a lot, you're going to learn a lot, and by the end you'll be a lot better. But don't think you're not good enough just because you're losing. There's going to be other players better than you and worse than you, so just keep playing and try and have fun, as painful as it can be. And lastly, keep an eye out for community weekends and double golden glory weekends, as these are going to give you a multiplier on the rep you get, so try and plan your sessions around these. That's all the tips I've got for this. Always remember, level 100 isn't as far away as you think it is. Believe me, I was in your position. I always thought I was never going to get it, but now I have both the skeleton and the ghost, so trust me, you can get it too. But if a lot of the information was confusing and you're a bit of a newer player, check out this video on screen, which is the full guide to Sea of Thieves.